A little while ago, I got this Dell Optiplex G1. Ever since then it's just been sitting around and hasn't got much love, since there's not really much I can do with it in its current state. I mean, it can't play games. So today, we're going to change that and pimp it out with some 3dfx hardware. Let's get started. This machine has a good foundation to start upgrading upon, since it features a Pentium 2 running at 400 MHz. Say you had a Celeron CPU, for example, it probably wouldn't be worth upgrading, but in its current state, it sure is, because there is heaps of potential with that Pentium 2 inside. So let's first go over some of the parts I'll be using, starting with this 3dfx Voodoo 2 8MB card. Sure, I could use a 12MB, but I don't have one, so 8MB it is. This card will give this computer all the 3D performance it needs to play all the awesome games from the 90s. We also have a Sound Blaster Live model SB0100. This will give us all the sound and also great emulation in DOS games. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and open up the computer, which is really easy by just pushing in those two tabs. And as you can see inside, we have plenty of room for expandability, or at least two PCI slots, which we'll be using here. So now I need to go ahead and lift up this plastic tab to take out this riser card, which holds all the expansion cards. You can't install cards without taking it out, so I've just gone ahead and done that. Now that it's out, we need to just go ahead and unscrew these two screws holding in these cover plates. Anyway, now that we've got those out, we can go ahead and install our Sound Blaster Live. This card has great compatibility for both DOS and Windows, and I've used these cards in multiple builds and they've always worked flawlessly. So that's what we'll be installing here. Next up, I've got the 3dfx Voodoo 2, which will go in the PCI slot right in front. I had a bit of trouble getting this card in, but it slotted in pretty easy. And if you're wondering what that little yellow thing is on the end, it's a gender changer, so that way I can use my patch cable, which isn't an original one. And now the Voodoo 2 just slots right in. Perfect fit. So now we just need to go ahead and put in these two screws again to hold our expansion cards in. With that taken care of, we can go ahead and install our riser card back into the computer with our lovely expansion cards. The Voodoo 2 is really long and was sitting on top of those floppy cables at a bit tighter than I would have liked, so I just kind of moved them out of the way and kind of pushed them so the Voodoo 2 won't interfere with them. We wouldn't want our Voodoo 2's PCB to get bent after all. And as you can see, it slots in pretty easy, and then we just turn the retention thing and yep, it's a bit fiddly, but eventually it goes in perfect. And yeah, there we go. Gosh, doesn't that look beautiful? Now I'm going to go ahead and put the cover of the computer back on, so we can get to playing some games. And we essentially now have a gaming PC. This thing will be able to run basically any game now, with its Pentium 2 and Voodoo 2 configuration. The sound card also helps too. I'm just going to go ahead and plug in my patch cable here, going into the video output of the integrated graphics and the video input of the Voodoo 2. I could have used a dedicated 2D card, but the integrated one will work fine, since the Voodoo 2 will control all the games. Now I'm going to go ahead and install all the drivers on this machine, which is a bit of a tedious process. It also requires multiple restarts and a bunch of fiddling around. As you can see, I'm installing the Voodoo 2 drivers here, and again we need to restart. And yeah, this is the whole process. Once that's taken care of though, now we're ready to try out some games. I'll start with Quake 2. Now, one thing to bear in mind, I could not for the life of me find the drivers for the integrated video, and they also didn't install automatically, and I just couldn't get them to install no matter what. So that's why everything is only in 16 colors. But here within Quake 2, if we go ahead and change the video mode to be 3dfx, the game looks perfect. I'm running the game at 640 by 480 here, and I get really good frame rates. Gosh, this is fun to play on this computer. And it works perfect even without the 2D drivers for our integrated graphics. And as you can see here, yeah, Quake 2 runs perfect. So this computer can take advantage of basically all the 3D games that would work with a Voodoo 2, since that's what it has. So I think it's safe to say we've clearly breathed some new life into this machine and made it something that anybody can enjoy. Let's go ahead and listen to some sound too.
Communications. Priority alpha. Reporting 80% failing
And as we can see, that Sound Blaster Live is doing its job. I'm just using the Phil's Computer Lab drivers, by the way. One of the benefits to having a computer from this time period is you can not only play 3D games, but also older 2D games, like Doom for example. And the sound works great, and the picture is great too. This computer is perfect for all 90s games. And why stop at Doom when you can go all the way back to Wolfenstein 3D? This game is awesome. I love this game. Well, that's about it for this video. We've made a computer that can play any game from the 1990s. This build is seriously awesome, and I think it's a great point in time for building a vintage computer. You can do the same with basically any OEM machine. You just need to find a Voodoo 2, which can be hard and expensive. But yeah, that's about it from me, and I'll see you next time.